What's up, everybody? I'm Kaz Fernandez. I'm speaking on the From Within podcast where we debunk everything from fitness myths, how to reach your goals, crazy things in the fitness industry, how to help trainers scale, and all of the above. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about From Within Athletes, a little bit of my story. So my background is I've been in the health and wellness space for over 8+ years, played a little bit of high school and college basketball, never really a good athlete. Was horrible at school, had a 2.5 GPA all throughout high school, never very super popular, always kind of struggled athletically and physically, and that's what kind of inspired me to be in the fitness space and be a great trainer. I didn't get my first dunk until 19. I struggled a lot until I hit really around like 20, 21, 22. So I was kind of a late bloomer, and that's why I try to inspire all my athletes and all my clients. I think that the big thing when people are trying to achieve goals or certain processes or try new things is everyone's always afraid of failure and afraid of rejection. And let me go a little bit and talk more into that topic. So I think in the world right now, where we have social media and we have Instagram and TikTok and influencers and YouTube and et cetera, I asked a client the other day of why they didn't want to post something. And I thought it was very interesting that I could tell that unless the caption was right and unless the video was right and unless he felt that the quality was going to be on the up and up, he was very afraid of rejection. And then it got to me thinking about in terms of my life journey and my life story. And I think whenever I think about rejection and I think of being afraid to do something or take a risk or do X, Y, and Z, I have this really good framework that I'm going to give you guys. So I think about, okay, if I was 85 years old, which I'm not guaranteed to live to, we're not born with a death certificate or a receipt of when we're going to die. I think about if I'm afraid of a challenge or trying something new of if I was 85 years old right now, and I wasn't in the physical shape that I am right now, and I was old, and I had people standing around my bed, and let's just say I was maybe on the back nine or the last hole or two. I try to think about when I'm afraid to try something, if I'm in that moment, like what would I think? How would I feel? Would I be disappointed? Would I be happy? And I think when I do that in terms of that framework of thinking about 85 or 90-year-old me, it helps me push through about taking risks in terms of relationships, business, setting a new goal, posting something on Instagram or TikTok, because we get afraid of all this fear and rejection that we have from family members, from friends, from people seeing us on social media. Someone said this, someone said that, or there are all these made up stories in our head. And when I use the framework of thinking about, well, how would Kaz Fernandez feel if he was 85 or 90 years old and I was on the back nine of my life? Would I really care about what somebody said at me or said to me in 2024 or 2019, or how I felt embarrassed for posting something, or I felt not inclined to ask a client for help to grow my business? If I was 85 or 90 years old and I was in like an old care facility and I was fucking shitting in my own bed, I think I would look back at my life and I would be very sad if I didn't take X, Y, or Z risk, try X, Y, or Z challenge, or shoot for something new. So I think that you have to ask yourself that in terms of that framework, and it will help you overcome things in terms of anxiety, feeling sad, feeling lonely, feeling depressed, feeling anxious, or just not trying anything. So even in terms of me, for my business, right? Or if I want to do something athletically or I'm coaching someone, I always think to myself, like, something's better than nothing. So if that's a fitness goal, I want to lose 10 pounds, then just start with walking every day. If you're a basketball player and you want to dunk, just start with grabbing the rim. Just start with one workout. If you have this new business idea and you have this goal and you want to start a business, just take the first step and create a fitness page or a business page, or, call someone and ask them to be a case study. We get afraid of all these things that, are other people's opinions, and these are all made up stories in our head. And I think about that a lot of times too, of whenever I get in my own head or I'm really afraid of something, I'm like, okay, is this actually something I'm really afraid of? Or is this just something that I'm making up in my own head? And I'll give you another story to kind of piggyback off that. Obviously, being a trainer, you're going to have clients that are upset or clients that want X, Y, or Z problem solved, or they're going to want to troubleshoot on this or that for diet or business or you name it, right? When you are in the fitness industry, I don't care if you're a general manager at a health club, I don't care if you're a contracted trainer, or I don't care if you're teaching group fitness, right? You're always dealing with human and social dynamics. So the story that I have to tell you guys to make you feel okay about like stories in our own head is that sometimes I would get a text message or an email, and you know when that anxiety kicks in, like AC knows what I'm talking about. Like you get that text message, that email, and that, you get that feeling in your chest. And I created this story in my head when this person would text me. And then when I would end up actually talking to the client and giving them a phone call, it was never anything that I thought in my head. But we all do that thing where like we go 5 to 10 different ways of these made up stories when that's really never actually the case. So again, to go back to my larger point on if you are feeling anxious or afraid and you're not doing something in terms of business or your own goals or your own journey in life, think about 85 to 90-year-old you and what you would do if you looked back on your life and you weren't getting the results that you wanted. Like, would you really be mad would you really be satisfied with yourself if you didn't make that post on Instagram, if you didn't ask that girl out, if you didn't start that business? No, you would regret that you didn't take the risk. And then in terms of the own thinking and fears we have in our head, it's all in our own head. And before we even talk to the client or before we even tackle the problem that we're having in school or with a teacher, we make up these scenarios and we make up these things. And I think that has to do a lot with social media. But when we actually just tackle the issue and we get out of our own head and we just take that one step forward with like, I'm just going to walk today for half a mile. I'm just going to try to eat more protein. I'm just going to post once on social media. I'm just going to, drive to the club. Like there's so many different things that you can do. I'm just going to go to the event. Like just start with the first step. I'm just going to get dressed in my nicest clothes. Like there's so many things that you can do where you just eliminate all the noise in your head and think about like, what's the first step? So again, in terms of those frameworks of thinking about yourself at 85 or 90 years old, or in terms of the framework of like actually tackling the problem, to give you another like anecdotal story is that I was helping a client with something launching her business, and she was very like discouraged she was taking sales calls. And she had made up all these things in her head of why the prospect wouldn't buy or why she couldn't do something for her physical therapy practice. And I just asked her and I just said, well, what if none of those things happen and you get on the call and that they just all go with flying colors? And she just says yes. And then you have a new customer and a new lifelong client. And then she's like, oh, well, like, who knows if that's going to happen? And it's like, yeah, but who knows if it's going to happen? But that's the point. Like, you don't know if it's going to go bad. You don't know if it's going to go good. You just haven't even taken the call yet. So again, to go back to my point is that we get so stuck in our own way of thinking of all these different reasons and all these different racing thoughts of what might happen instead of actually just, okay, what's the first actionable step, right? Like if I want to do 10 push-ups, let me just start with like doing 5 assisted push-ups like on all fours, right? If I want to do 1 pull-up, why don't I just go up to the pull-up machine and I set it to 80 pounds and I do an assisted pull-up with just 1 rep? If I want to make a new challenge in business, like why don't I just start with writing down the goal? So again, to go back to my center point of the whole theme of just one step, one actionable step, and then not being afraid to really challenge yourself, that's going to be what will move the needle in terms of being able to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So it becomes very hard. Even me starting this podcast, like I'm here with my cameraman right now and I'm like, okay, like I have no idea how to post on Spotify. I have no idea to post on Apple. I don't know what I'm doing in terms of a podcast, but this is my first episode. Now, obviously 5 years from now, I'm going to look back and hopefully it's going to be a lot better and we're going to have a stage and, there'll be some live viewers on Instagram, but this is only my first time. So I'm supposed to be shitty or it's not supposed to be great or it's not going to go as planned. But the point being is like I made him come over and film this because I'm like, dude, I just need to fucking start. Like I need to do something. And if I do something, that's all that matters. So that wraps up the conclusion of the first From Within podcast. I'm Cass Fernandez here with the greatest cameraman on planet Earth, Balldog AC. We're out.